and welcome to FPL Mate, your best mate for fantasy Premier League content for the 2022-23 season. My name is Dan, and today we are doing the Game Week 14 team selection video where we're going to be going through transfers and captaincy for my team, as well as looking at my scores from Game Week 13. So guys, if you are enjoying this content for Game Week 14, please do remember to click a like on the video. It really helps out the channel, and do subscribe if you're new around here as well. But I say, let's get straight on with it. Okay, so Game Week 13 was a little bit of a disaster. I don't think it was just a disaster for me, but for pretty much everyone, right? In fact, there was very few players that scored any points at all. You look through this team and you think, this is a good team, right? There's a lot of good players in here who had some very good fixtures. And for some reason, it all just went terribly wrong. And I don't really understand why, to be honest. It really is a real difficult one. I'm sure a lot of you guys felt really disappointed. My transfers, for example, Phil Foden coming into my team, absolutely flopped it, which was really disappointing. Didn't even start the game. Nobody saw that one coming. Foden has been so nailed on, and we do expect him to be nailed on in the future. So I guess looking forward, it's not so bad, but the one pointer, it's just like, oh, I can't believe that actually happened. That is so disappointing, but oh well. But I feel like I did get a couple of decisions right here. Obviously, captaining Haaland was a good decision there. Salah could have been my captain. Possibly, I guess. I know a few of you guys probably did captain Salah and would have felt even more disappointed than me. And I did end up putting Andreas on the pitch as well. Played him over Solanke. I thought, you know what? Andreas, he's got a better fixture. He's probably in better form than Solanke, to be fair. So I'm going to back him and see what he can do. And that decision went well. So there were a few little key moments like Andreas, Holland, Mitrovic. These are the only three players in my team that returned. But I feel like what more can I do? Like, this is pretty much the best I could do given the situation I was in, and the situation I was in I thought was pretty good. So I kind of am a little bit confused in a way as how I didn't get a green arrow, because I feel like that should have been enough in a way. And when I was kind of looking through, well, okay, fair enough, I didn't score that many points. I ended up on a red arrow somehow. Surely my team wasn't that bad compared to some other people who had an even bigger amount of trouble, particularly if they didn't captain Holland, particularly if they didn't have the likes of Andreas. Obviously, some people had the likes of, Leicester defenders, which for some reason have become saviours of so many game weeks recently. But it turns out that a lot of the teams that did well this week are teams that actually weren't set up very well at all. For example, my own wife, Mrs. FPL Mate, completely forgot to do her team. She left her Man City players on the bench and ended up playing a bunch of random players that she didn't really want to play at all. She wanted to actually transfer them out. Almiron, she wasn't planning on playing. Mings, she wasn't planning on playing. They ended up on the first team because she forgot to do her team, and that ended up with a really good score. So I do wonder, maybe, is it possible that this was just a game week where everyone was just kind of doomed to fail, and unless you got a bit of luck, and maybe you can say I got a little bit of luck by playing Andreas, for example, that's the only way to get any points that week. I don't know, what do you think? I just feel like this game week, and to be fair, a few game weeks recently, it feels like you can do everything that you think is right, everything that looks like they're the right decisions, and still not get the results you want to. I wonder if this season the randomness factor has been turned up just a little bit, and maybe that's just me saying that because I'm not having a very good season so far. Maybe I'm just kind of making excuses. So I'll be really interested to know what you guys think. Has the randomness factor been turned up a little bit in terms of those FPL results, those Premier League results this season, where it's kind of a little bit more difficult to predict who's going to do well and who's going to do poorly? Is it a luck-based game, and more so this season than before? I don't know. Let me know, guys. Let me know what you think, because I don't want to be making excuses for myself, but also I don't want to be too harsh on myself, because going into Game Week 13, when I looked at my team, I actually thought, this is a pretty good team. I'll be pretty happy with this team going forward. It didn't work out this game week. Let's see what happens next game week. But like I say, I'm still liking my team, I think. Let's set it up for Game Week 14. So, one free transfer, 1.6 million in the bank. We've got a Haaland situation to deal with that I'm sure a lot of you guys are wondering about as well. So, we will get to that, don't you worry. But let's start off in goal with Nick Pope. A home game against Aston Villa. I think that's a pretty good fixture if you're looking for those clean sheets. So, fingers crossed for a clean sheet from Nick Pope there. Aston Villa don't really have too many goal scorers right now, so we're not expecting too much from them. And even under new management, you do still worry about Aston Villa getting back to the top of their form. Where is the top of their form, to be fair? I'm not sure, but Newcastle, the form they've been in, you would hope that they're going to be back to clean sheets soon. Unlucky against Liverpool last game week to concede that one goal. Maybe that shouldn't have happened. Maybe if Harry Kane was marked a little bit better on that corner, that wouldn't have happened. But, these things happen, and Newcastle are still absolutely, smashing it right now. So we are still enjoying Nick Pope. Moving on into defence, we have got Cancelo, and this Leicester fixture, although Leicester are becoming a little bit tougher to play against in terms of their defence, and we're going to have Ndidi back for Leicester. Leicester as well this week. But Leicester are still, I think, struggling to score too many goals. I know you can look at last game, we can say, hey, they played pretty well last game week, but in general, I don't think Leicester are a really, really strong attack in the Premier League by any stretch of the imagination, particularly if we look at a slightly larger pool of data. So I would expect Man City to keep a clean sheet here, or at least I'd hope for them to keep a clean sheet here against Leicester. So Cancelo's still the man, and you never know with those attacking returns from him as well. These next 3 fixtures really, really going to be really good ones for Man City players, I think. We've got Kieran Trippier next. Last week, obviously, we had a blip. I have to be honest, I kind of did expect a blip there. Like I say, the goal that they conceded was a little bit unlucky, but if they were going to concede in one game over this, final run until the World Cup, I did feel like that Spurs game was going to be the game they were going to concede in. So I'm not too worried about the blank from Trippier last week, but moving forward, I am expecting him to get back to his consistent returns that we were very much enjoying. So yeah, Aston Villa up next. Should be a clean sheet. Should be potential for some attacking returns as well. Although I don't think Aston Villa are a weak defence. I really don't think they're a weak defence. So I'm not expecting them to go out and score 3 or 4 goals or anything like that. But if they can score 1 or 2 and Trippier is involved, I think we'll all be very, very happy, since pretty much all of us are Trippier owners at this point, aren't we? Next up, we've got Anderson. So he disappointed again last game week, which was one of those things, I guess. I didn't expect Crystal Palace to concede quite as many goals as they did. And I'm not, in general, I still don't think Crystal Palace are a terrible defence, really. I don't know. Maybe they're going to be a little bit better at home. We are seeing them performing a little bit better at home. So we have got this home game against Southampton, who, again, we know are one of the weaker attacks in the league. They're one of the weakest defences in the league as well. So I'm hoping that Anderson, our 4.5 million defenders, can potentially pull through in this one. And then after that, we've got some very good fixtures. West Ham and Nottingham Forest, even though they're away fixtures, again, they're 2 teams that don't score too many goals. So defensively, you would imagine that Crystal Palace have some good opportunities to score points. And you know what? For 4.5 million, if you get the occasional 1 or 2 pointer, you're not too worried. But I am hoping for, give me a 6 pointer. And then there's always the kind of opportunity for Anderson to get those attacking returns, because he still is that aerial threat from those set pieces. He really is. So I'm still crossing my fingers and hoping one of those is going to come through for me over the next couple of game weeks. Moving on into midfield, we have got Salah. So he's playing against Leeds. I know a lot of people are worried about Salah right now. I'm not. I'm really, really not. The blank against Nottingham Forest was, I think, a little bit of a fluke, to be honest, because we've seen around the last few game weeks, the Rangers game in the UCL, we saw in the Man City game, and we saw it again in the Champions League again this week for Liverpool and for Salah. Salah absolutely smashing it. So out of the last 4 games, Salah's only blanked once, really, and all of the other 3 games, he's put in really stellar performances. Technically, yes, they are Champions League games, so can you make that comparison? I think you can, but I don't think you can say that Salah is in bad form right now. And I know a lot of people are very quick to say, Salah's in bad form, and maybe that's because they only focus on the Premier League, perhaps, and don't kind of look at all of the games that Salah's playing right now, because in general, he is playing very, very well. Leeds United are still one of the weaker defences in the league, one of the very weakest defences in the league. This is a home game for Salah as well. So there's so many things to suggest that actually Salah is going to have a very, very good game week, despite the fact that he did, disappoint last game week. He did disappoint, but look, I think the signs there are very, very good, and I think you'd have to put up a very, very convincing argument to convince me to sell Salah right now. So for me, he's a definite keep. He is a captain option as well, a good captain option indeed. So yeah, I like him. Phil Foden next. I've actually put this Leicester away game as a grey fixture. I don't know if that's completely accurate or not, but that's how I've kind of viewed it at the moment, because Leicester are keeping clean sheets at the moment. They just are. But, Man City are a team that are just going to score against anyone. And Foden is a player who is in fantastic form when he's been playing. Unfortunately, he didn't play last game week, but if he's going to be back, and you know what? If Haaland doesn't play, for example, this game week, then maybe Foden is going to be, more depended on in terms of goals. He likes to take a shot on anyway, so maybe that's going to be good for him potentially. But either way, whether Holland's playing or not, Foden has been a different beast this season, and he's pretty much nailed on. I know he wasn't starting last game week, but that was a real freak occurrence, and nobody's really expecting him to continue to be benched. He's going to be back. Don't worry about that, and he's going to be back against Leicester and hopefully doing the business. Zaha next, Southampton at home. I really feel like Zaha is a player that we need to be trying to keep. I know a lot of you guys are going to want to go for Foden or want to go for Saka. I would keep Zaha. If I was to sell one player, it would be Bowen. Obviously, Bowen has picked up a little injury as well, So I think there's potential for Bowen with a bad fixture against Manchester United and the fact that he is potentially injured. We're not quite sure on how severe his injury is right now, but it's not looking amazing if I'm honest. So yeah, Bowen is a player I would sell. Zaha is a player I would try and keep if you're looking to get some of those other kind of mid to premium price kind of midfielders in there. Zaha obviously on penalties, it's a home fixture. I think despite the disappointing performance last week, he did play really well the week before that. So, you know, to say he's out of form is a little bit misguided. You know, if he didn't get a yellow card, maybe we'd be saying something different. If he, you know, get a 3-pointer, maybe we wouldn't be as disappointed as the 1-pointer that he ended up getting. So yeah, it's only going to take a moment of brilliance, which we know he has. It's only going to take a penalty, which we know he takes, for everything to turn around. And there are some nice fixtures here. Southampton at home is really nice, and Nottingham Forest in a couple of weeks is a pretty nice fixture as well. Next up, Martinelli, home game against Nottingham Forest. I think this is a pretty good fixture at home, although I don't think Nottingham Forest are quite as weak as they were at the beginning of the season. They have seemed to improve as their team has gelled together a little bit more. So am I desperate to get loads and loads of Arsenal players in? If you asked me a couple of weeks ago, I would have probably said yes, but now as we get closer to this game, I'm kind of thinking, you know, is this as an insane of a fixture as we once thought it was? Probably not. Still very happy to roll with Martinelli. He's very cheap. He is, you know, a good goal scorer, a good attacker, and he's pretty much nailed on for this Arsenal team. So still confident in Martinelli, but I mean, I'm not expecting too much from him and Arsenal in general, given the fact as well that Arsenal's form does seem to have dipped a little bit, and by a little bit I mean quite a lot. They've been kind of riding their luck a little bit over the past couple of game weeks, and you know, certainly when we get to this Chelsea and Wolves game, I think Arsenal fans may find themselves a little bit disappointed with some of those results. And finally, we're going to finish off the midfield with Andreas. So once again, I am going to start Andreas. He has been in just such good form recently. And you know what? If he was like, I don't know, 5.5 million, 6 million, we'd all be looking at Andreas and saying, wow, what a pick. We'd be putting him up there with the likes of possibly Almiron or Iwobi, who I know a lot of you guys are looking at right now. And we'd be looking at them and looking at Andreas in the same light and saying, this is just a player who is playing very well, who is in great form, who is playing in a super advanced position, who is taking a lot of the set pieces, who is taking shots on, who is creating everything for his teammates, including the very, very good Alexander Mitrovic up front. This is a great FPL pick. So just because he's 4.6 million, and we usually describe those kind of price bracket players as bench players, I don't know if that's necessarily the case the more I look at Andreas. So actually, all in all, I actually really quite like Andreas, and I think this Everton game is a very good fixture as well. And when we get to the Man City and the Man United game, perhaps Andreas then does go back onto the bench. But for now, whilst he's in his good form and has these good fixtures, I'm going to keep playing him. And I kind of advise you guys to think about doing the same thing. If you're like not fully convinced by one of the players in your first 11 and you've got Andreas on your bench, maybe you can play Andreas. I think that's one for the bench list really in the deadline stream, but we'll talk about that one tomorrow. Up front, we've got Erling Haaland. Now, I have to admit to you guys, I'm recording this video before the press conference, because if I keep waiting, then I'm just never going to get this video out. I could wait and wait for the press conferences. So basically what I've decided to do is tell you what I'm going to do depending on different scenarios based on Haaland's injury. So first of all, if Haaland is, if it's unclear or he's available, we don't know what's going on, or he's available, we've got no clear answer, then I'll keep Haaland. He just stays in my team, and you know, probably captain him as well. And if it doesn't work out, then we'll have a vice captain on there. If Haaland is out for 1 week only, I still keep him. I still keep him because I really want him for that Fulham game. Having Haaland for that Fulham game and the Brentford game too, to be fair, is going to be really, really, really important, because those are some of the weakest defences in the league. Fulham in particular, the weakest defence in the league right now, and you just know that Man City are going to run riot in that game. So it's going to be really important to have those top Man City attackers in that game and in the Brentford game as well. So I absolutely keep him, even if he's out for 1 game week. Now, if he's out for 2 game weeks, I have a decision to make, and I'm not really sure what I'm going to do about it. But I would probably say that if he's out for 2 weeks, or if he's out until the World Cup, it's a straight transfer to Harry Kane. Although, if I'm honest, I don't think that's very likely, but you guys, by the time this video is out, you guys will probably already know for sure. Maybe we'll have a chat about that in the comment section, but there you go. There's all of the possible scenarios with Haaland. That's what I'll do as a little bonus trinket of information. If Haaland is out until the World Cup, not only am I going to transfer him out for Kane, but I will also probably transfer in Alvarez at Man City next game week. I'll transfer out Mitrovic and transfer in Alvarez next game week. So that is a really really interesting thing that could happen. In fact, in a way, I kind of hope Holland is injured so I can transfer him out for Kane and do the Alvarez move next game week, and we'll end up having a situation where we've made a really good situation out of a bad situation, because remember, Harry Kane plays against Bournemouth this game week, which is not exactly a bad fixture, is it? So yeah, overall, that's kind of what I'm thinking of doing. Depending on what the news is, you will know based on what I've just said what I'm going to do. So although I can't give you a clear, definitive answer in this video, hopefully from the information I've just given you, you'll be able to ascertain what I'm likely to do. Hopefully that makes sense. And finally, we've got Mitrovic as well. Everton at home. I think it's a good fixture. Mitrovic smashing it, non-stop goals. He's an absolute gem, isn't he? On FPL, he really has been a superstar, an absolute essential player. But yeah, like I say, I am thinking about removing him the following game week, in game week 15. Although it's even saying that, like, I don't think there's anything wrong with keeping Mitrovic, because he just can score against absolutely anyone, and he's proven that this season. Let's move on into the bench, guys. We've got Iverson against Man City, not going to play. Solanke potentially injured, but I think Solanke is going to be okay for this game week. The news looks positive that he's going to be available for this Spurs game, but still, I would rather play Andreas, I think, in this situation. We've got Webster and Mings on the bench there as well, coming in as backup options. So, look, this is the situation. I've got one free transfer, 1.6 in the bank. If Holland is injured, then he's going to be the priority transfer move out. If he's not injured, I do have a couple of other options. I could bring in Almiron and transfer out Andreas, which could be a pretty interesting move, to be fair, but again, kind of like Andreas for this game week. I actually think Andreas has the better fixture, and, you know, he doesn't have quite as good form, but he's, you know, you wouldn't say Almiron has been in way better form than Andreas. I don't think he has been anyway. We can also think about getting in Tomiyasu. This is something I thought about, a way of kind of getting an Arsenal defender in for this Nottingham Forest game, where I do think Arsenal are going to keep a clean sheet. And Tomiyasu was only 4.2 million. He seems pretty nailed on at the moment as well, which is really, really nice. And it could save me a little bit of money. For example, I could transfer out Webster, maybe, for Tomiyasu, maybe Mings. I'm not going to play Mings, I don't think, between now and the World Cup, so I don't really need Mings, so he could be a potential transfer out. That's an option there. So there are a couple of options, but I think when I look at this team, I think if there's no injury problems, I think any transfer I make would be luxury, and I think I would rather save transfers and maybe think about doing some bigger moves. For example, you know, next game week, if I don't want to have Mitrovic if I don't want to have Salah in my team against Spurs, you know, Salah goes downhill, then maybe I can transfer out using 2 free transfers, Salah and Mitrovic to Kane, and then put a midfielder in there as well. I could put in pretty much any midfielder up to like 9 million, which could be pretty nice, or I could get in someone else. Like, there's loads of options that become available next game week if I save the free transfer. So looking at this team, I'm really tempted, if possible, to just roll the transfer, because I feel like any move I make, other than dealing with injuries, is going to be a little bit luxury, and I don't feel I don't feel like compelled to do anything. Like Zaha, could move him to Saka potentially, but again, I don't think this Nottingham Forest game is amazing. I don't think Arsenal's form is amazing, and the Chelsea and Wolves game put me off a little bit as well. Plus Zaha, Southampton at home is a good fixture, and then we've got that, you know, we've got a Nottingham Forest game, which is okay. We've got the West Ham game, which is not ideal, but you know, it's okay. So yeah, that's pretty much it. So we're going to leave that as it is. Captain's armband, as long as Haaland is, you know, either available or looks like he could possibly be available, he will have the captain's armband, but don't hold me to that, because I could potentially go for Salah. I am seriously considering Salah. He's going to have the vice captain's armband today. Yeah, stay tuned, I guess, for the streams where I will go into a little bit more detail, but for now, that's going to be my FPL team for a game week 14. No real changes, looking pretty much the same, and you know, madness is doing the same thing every game week and expecting different results. But this week we're going to get a different result, guys. This team is too good to miss, right? Thank you so much for watching today, guys. If you did enjoy, please do leave a like. Please do subscribe if you're new around here as well. And as well, a reminder, guys, I am giving away this this signed Chelsea shirt, signed by the entire Chelsea squad that I got personally signed by them. So I know it's 100% real because I was there. Yeah, that's going to be over on Twitter. So make sure you're following it on Twitter at FPL Mate, and also on Instagram at FPL Mate. But that's going to be it for me today. Make sure you are joining in on those streams. Thank you once again for watching so much, and I will see you later, mates. Bye-bye.